We all have stories, and these stories define our reality and the way that we perceive the world. They drive our actions, which then determine the quality of our lives. And so understanding our stories is important. As we understand our stories, we understand our lives. And these stories are often rooted in 5 common obstacles that we experience as humans. Last time, I talked about the obstacle and the tendency as humans we have to cling to worldly pleasure. Today, we're going to talk about aversion. We're going to talk about the stories that aversions lead to, how these stories keep us stuck, and how to change this cycle. So if you're ready to change your stories and change your life, let's dive in. Okay, so let's talk about what aversion is. Aversion can be defined as ill will or any intent to avoid or get rid of unpleasantness. It feels like dissatisfaction, resentment, anger, criticism, judgment, shame, impatience, or even boredom. And some of the stories that might signal aversion are things like, I hate, it's not fair, I don't want, or I can't take this anymore, right? So those are common signals. When you hear those stories, that's a sign that you are in aversion. Okay, so let's consider what that might look like in the space of your health and well-being and goals and changes you might be trying to make there. So the first one, I hate meal prepping. It's so boring. I just want to eat like a normal person, right? Or it's not fair. It's not fair that it's so easy for other people to be healthy and I have to work so hard at this. Or I don't want to change the way that I eat. If life is too short to never eat the foods that I want. Or I can't take this. I can't take one more workout where I feel exhausted and sore for days, right? Those are all examples and signals of aversion. But here's the thing, aversion does serve a purpose. There is a reason we experience aversion. So let's talk about that next. Aversion exists to keep us safe. It is part of our survival mechanism, right? We learn to avoid or eliminate things that are unpleasant in order to stay safe, in order to survive, right? If we can shut down anything that exposes us to harm, we increase our likelihood of survival, right? So it serves a purpose and it is important. However, as we know, not everything that is unpleasant is inherently bad, right? And avoiding anything unpleasant robs us of important growth and development, right? So how do we know when to lean into that unpleasantness and when to avoid it, right? This is where we bring some skill into how we manage aversion. At any point in time, we have a choice to handle something unskillfully, which is typically autopilot. It's kind of caving into that response of unpleasantness, or to respond with skill, which is where we apply reason and logic and a certain skill set to navigate the unpleasantness of the situation. So we're going to talk through how to move from an unskilled response to a skilled response when you experience aversion. Let's first talk about the unskilled response. This is what it looks like to bring unskillful response to aversion. This is when we kind of collapse into the story. We believe it fully. We kind of fall in hook, line, and sinker. These stories of I hate, I'm bored, it's not fair, I can't take anymore, right? We accept it and we kind of fall into it. And what happens then is it shuts down choice. And it kind of narrows down our reality and narrows down our options. So let's look at some examples. The first example, I hate, right? I hate meal prepping. It's so boring. I just want to eat like a normal person, right? So you can see here how it is fueling some resentment against these behaviors, right? Which then makes it really hard to stay consistent to that behavior that might actually help you. Or it's not fair. It's not fair that other people it's so much easier for them to be healthy and I have to work so hard at it, right? So this is fueling comparison, self-criticism, judgment, which again just sort of sucks the wind out of your sails, right? It kind of shuts you down and makes it really difficult to continue in those positive behaviors. Or I don't want to change the way that I eat. Life's too short to not eat the foods that I want, right? And this creates resistance to things that could again benefit our health, right? It kind of builds resistance into our story, into our process. Or the last example, I can't take this. I can't take any more workouts like this. It's too hard. I'm too exhausted, right? It's too punishing, whatever that narrative is, right? You can hear that dissatisfaction and avoidance in that story, which then makes you want to avoid it, right? It feels really punishing and miserable, right? Which then drives avoidance. So all of those stories, you can see how they lead to that resistance, the criticism, the comparison, the resentment, all of those emotions and feelings. And so what does then this lead to? This will undermine your motivation. It will erode your self-trust. It will cause you to abandon things too early before you've fully reaped the benefits of those behaviors. And it can even hurt your relationship and cause harm to others. As from this place, it's usually easy to justify unkindness and hurt towards other people. So none of those things are really good outcomes. All of these result from sort of the unskilled response to aversion. So the good news to all of this is that there is a different way, a skillful way. And as with any skill, it is something that can be learned, right? It's not about the type of person you are, it's just a skill that you need to practice. So that's the good news. And the first thing to build the skill, this is true for any skill, is to build awareness, right? To build awareness to when you are in one of these stories, which again looks like you're looking for things like I hate, I don't like, it's not fair, this is boring, right? Those are all signals of aversion. So first of all, notice it and become aware of when you have collapsed into that story. Another signal is that when it feels like you don't have choice, right? When you collapse into your story, it feels like you don't have choice. It feels like the outcome of that story is inevitable and is the only option available to you. Those are all signals that you're probably stuck in a story. So that's an invitation to step out of your story. So the second thing, right? First step is to notice it. Second thing, once you step out of the story, you can begin to apply reason and logic, right? You can look at the situation outside of the emotion and all of the emotion of the story itself. And from that place of reason or logic, you can ask yourself, what is the inherent value of this activity to me? What's the actual harm, right? Is it actually harmful? What's the actual value, right? From that place, you can make a bigger picture decision instead of that I hate, I don't like, right? This is miserable type of story that you might be telling yourself. So just as a side note, this was me when I started and making changes to become healthier and to have a healthier life. My stories that I told were, I don't like exercising. It's miserable. I hate it. And I was able to step back from that story and say, you know what, this will be better for my health if I move my body in some way. So I chose to run. I didn't love running. I chose to run anyway because it was accessible and it was pretty cheap. And as I ran, my body got stronger. I actually began to love it. And it led to the life that I live today, which I have a very strong, healthy body because I consistently move it and exercise it, right? That was the power of stepping out of my story, understanding the value of that behavior and choosing to do it because of that value, and then sticking with it until it wasn't so miserable. Or I hate vegetables, right? I hate vegetables. This was also me. I hated vegetables. I hated whole grains, but I chose to eat them anyway because I could step out of the story and say, but I know this will be better for my health. And so I will choose to eat them. It's not all I'm going to eat. I'll also eat foods that I do enjoy, but I want to eat more of these foods so I can nourish my body, right? Which again led to long-term patterns of health, right? So it's applying that reason and logic so we're choosing things based on their inherent value to us, not based on that story of I hate or I don't like or it's miserable or boring, right? We're choosing the good for our lives from that place outside of our stories. So after you've applied reason or logic to determine if it is actually something that maybe you do want to avoid it, right? Maybe it is something that's not great for you. But if you've determined that it is good for you, now what do you do? Step 3 is to set appropriate boundaries. So this looks like your structure for success, right? So for eating, it might be making a choice that even though I'm going to eat healthier, I'm also going to include the foods that I love. That every meal I'll have some of this vegetable that I don't like, and I'm going to have something that I do like. So I've got some balance and I can enjoy the meal as a whole, right? That might be structure or boundary that you need to set. Getting clear on the values that you want to live by and using those as your guide, right? So I'm not collapsing into this story of I hate this. I'm living by this value of I value my health. I value caring for my body, right? So getting clear on your values is part of that, creating that structure and setting the boundaries. Saying no when you need to say no so that you can prioritize the decisions that you've made, and maximizing choice, right? Again, collapsing into your story minimizes choice. Applying logic and reason and setting the right structure and boundaries opens up choice. So those are the things that you want to do. And then finally, the fourth thing, so remember the first thing is to recognize the story, then you apply reason and logic to determine if it's good. Then you set the appropriate boundaries, structure for success, and then finally you're going to ask for what you need, right? So what support do you need to be successful here? So to support you on your wellness goals, for example, maybe you need clothes that feel good and that are comfortable to move in, right? Asking for what you need. Maybe you need to find a safe place free from judgment, so you're not worrying while you're exercising about what other people are thinking or how you're moving, right? You can just feel that safety to move the way that feels good to you, right? Asking for what you need to support you as you lean into what might otherwise be an unpleasant behavior and a pleasant experience, so that you can feel and experience the long-term benefit and value to your life. Okay, the last thing I wanted to cover to help on this process of leaning into aversion, there are 3 things that you can practice as you're leaning into things that are otherwise unpleasant but are valuable to your life. These are some things that you can lean into or practice or cultivate to help that process and to decrease a little bit of the unpleasantness of these things that you've chosen. So first of all, self-compassion. Compassion is so important. Compassion is learning to sit with pain, right? Instead of avoiding pain or believing that pain needs to be avoided, compassion allows you to understand that pain is part of life, unpleasantness is part of life, and I can offer it care and kindness, right? That's compassion. So as you cultivate that in your life, it's a lot easier to navigate the things that feel unpleasant, right? To offer the compassion for the difficulty of the exercise or the workout, right? Or the difficulty, maybe it didn't feel as good today as it felt yesterday, and bringing compassion to that is really important. Curiosity. Curiosity can help shift us from emotional resistance to acceptance and a willingness to understand, right? Curiosity kind of opens us up to observe and accept what is and to learn more about what is, instead of sort of that resistance, right, that kind of shuts us down and decides already what it is or what it's going to be. So curiosity is really important. And then finally, gratitude. Gratitude is being able to see and receive the good in any situation. So this can shift you from ill will to loving kindness, right? It can shift you from fighting your body in a workout that doesn't feel good to feeling gratitude that your body can move the way that it can. Right? It can really shift that perspective, which gives you the energy to continue to lean in to these changes in your life. So cultivating self-compassion, curiosity, and gratitude can really help on your journey. Okay, so to pull this all together, next time you notice any of these stories, I'm bored, I hate, I can't take, it's not fair. When you notice any of those stories, get curious. What is the underlying aversion? What are you trying to avoid or eliminate? Then exercise reason, right, and perspective, and consider, is this something that is actually harmful? Why do I want to shut it down? And what positive role could this have in my life? And from that place, determine what to do, how to move forward. And then cultivate compassion, loving kindness, and acceptance to help sort of ease the path as you lean into these experiences. I would love to hear, comment below, what's one thing that you maybe feel aversion to in your life, and what's one way that you might shift that perspective or make different choices as you understand your story better. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to click subscribe for more videos on how to achieve a life of health and well-being that are centered in restoring and building trust in yourself and cultivating that inner wisdom. You can also go to nourishwhoyouare.com and sign up for a free coaching session if you want to learn more about how coaching can support you on your journey. Knowledge and skill building is one thing, but building that internal awareness can really unlock change in your life at a deeper, more fundamental level. And that's what coaching does for you. So if you want to sign up for a free coaching session to see what that's like, there's the link in the video description. It's nourishwhoyouare.com. You can sign up for a free session, and I hope to see you there. Don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.